Afternoon, folks. How are you all doing? Hope you're well. Apologies about last night. And it all went, I did it good tits, really. I was planning, I don't know how, to try and squeeze filming 4 videos in, and we got 1 3/4 done. It's proven to be quite a test not having somebody there all the time. So he's coming back tonight, actually, because I'm trying to ram it all in. I'm flying again tomorrow. Oh, tomorrow. It is Friday tomorrow. There we go. So yes, and I've got a special little guest coming with me. Not Arthur this time. The daughter's coming. Harriet's on it, so that's going to make for some interesting footage, I think, to say the least, on the vlog videos. So yeah, there we go. I don't know how many people's actually got a free hour around now. We shall wait and see, won't we? However, guys, if you are tuning in, feel free to fire some questions in. I've only got about 45 minutes myself, so we'll do what we can. The video seems to have gone down well. The full week condensed into one with the journals, and interesting feedback for the Japan side as well. So definitely we'll do them day by day. And I think probably what I'm going to do in the end is day by day and do the condensed episode as well, for people who might prefer just to sit and watch that. So no harm. It's not a lot of extra work to get that done. So yeah, we'll wait and see. And other than that, it's all a bit steady at the farm, really. Ponds I netted up yesterday were absolutely nuts. Crikey. Oh, no, not football banter. Come on, Will. Not having that, mate. Yeah. I did the Deutschkinder in Komomryo and Takatatsu Kinshowas. Absolutely banging. I can't believe how them Deutschkinderins have actually grown. It was pretty nuts, to be fair. So I'm going to have to lift them back up this afternoon to finish off the video, unfortunately. But that is what it is. But yeah, my goodness. And just in them 1,200-gallon ponds, again, I had such great results with them this year. And now, actually, as they're sat for this period, kind of for August, for September through to October, they're the lowest stock they will have ever been. I've really been severe with them selections, get the numbers down. So they're going to have a really powerful month on the growing and the food, which is pretty exciting. So yeah, but honestly, right, blanket ban right now on any football talk whatsoever. I'm not having it. I just yeah, I can't be coping with that anymore at all. Let's stick to koi. Koi make me happy. Football doesn't. So honestly, I was after the defeat at Arsenal, we were all absolutely buzzing, and here we are now. Fucking crazy. Anyway, let's stick to koi. Filter media wise, you've seen all that going on. Yeah, I mean, so far, I'm not going to jump too soon, but obviously I've got a decent bit of experience with this. The impact that shower is having on that pond, the Golden Corn pond where I set it up, the one you've seen, pretty impressive. But that would have been the case adding anything in there because of, increased biocapacity and massively increased water turnover, degassing, the whole lot. So it's really, really hard to see. I'm going to know deeper into it when I get the feed levels really up and see how the pond performs at that point. So yes, right. Let's have a scroll through, guys. Remember, fire me some questions in. You've got a good chance of getting it answered on this lunchtime one today. And I think moving forwards, I'm going to have to make it a bit more flexible with the show because I want to keep it up, make sure we're doing it once a week at least. But sticking to that exact slot is proving to be quite challenging at the moment. Especially the past 3 months. I've had a week out from being in Japan. Been pretty crazy, really. I can't wait to see how my babies are doing either. Miss Toyota Showa, they're actually going to look. I'm going to have a real clear understanding of exactly where I'm at this time. And there could, I don't know, numbers dependent, there could potentially be the first batch coming back sometime soon. Depends on the numbers and if we can figure the logistics out. Should be possible, but I also need to know what I'm actually dealing with first. So that's a pretty crazy thought, that one. Yeah, tread carefully, Craig. Very carefully. Right, here we go. Not sure if I've asked this before. What lactobacteria do you believe is best? Also, what is your views on the complete pond detox? Yeah, interesting one on the detox. Like I said, I've never used it and I won't use it because I don't see a need for it. I don't like the fact there is no understanding of what's actually in it and what's going into your water and what that's potentially doing to it as well. I proof of this, and I really need to get this out. The client whose pond was well, will feature in the documentary when we finally get it actually put live. Having put all that through, having pulled it out of a crazy bacterial problem into where it is, he is now. I went there on Monday to deliver a couple more fish to this phenomenal pond, and it is probably the pinnacle of seeing actually two ponds that day. I would know that two of the best ponds and koi collections in the country, and both now run under my management from afar with the whole keep it simple mantra. One of them, when I went into it, was laced with RO systems and all crazy kinds of shit. And the other had a crazy bacterial problem. Both now got them firing where they can actually be easily managed and kind of guided from afar. But it's effortless. The scary thing is it's effortless to a point. One of the ponds, you get to the point where I know it's kind of this itch as a hobbyist to want to be putting something in the water. You've got to understand that I like to treat things fundamentally. If there is a problem, I want to identify the problem and I want to put a sustainable and consistent system in place, not something that can change parameters, something that's going to keep everything like that, which is exactly what happened in that pond. But that client actually started using that product and he's very observant given what he's been through and no longer does, let's just say. And again, it was against my advice, didn't want it, didn't see the need. And yeah, so I've not used it. So I can't fully say it just goes against my principles of keep it simple. Keep it simple is about getting the fundamentals in place, making sure you've got a core system that functions properly and incoming source water that's properly treated before it's added to the pond. Then at that point, if possible, you implement heat because it's just going to make your hobby it's going to reduce stress and give massive amounts of stability, especially in the UK. And then spend any of that other money on getting the best food you can, which in my opinion is still sake akari, and that will never change until someone managed to make something better, which I've not seen for the best parts of 20 years. And that's where I'm at with it, and that's what it's about. And then you get that running, you get the stability, you create an ecosystem that you don't interfere with and fuck around with too much. That's why I like the likes of Fluid Beds with K1. Because the ecosystem they build is quite remarkable, but just leave it alone, get a good maintenance regime, no scrubbing. This is the thing I was discussing with this same guy the other day, he's scrubbing filters down and all the rest of it. You're scrubbing away potentially good biofilm and loads of good bacteria and everything in the process. And then people who are using the additions of lactobacteria is different. I'm going to set that aside, but Virkons, and I've seen now that regular dosing of potassium is coming back into play. All these things kill both good and bad bacteria, and they interfere and mess with an ecosystem, a delicate ecosystem. I don't want to do it. And you've seen, I don't need to convince anybody that this is the way forward, because who doesn't want a hassle-free koi keeping hobby? And you've seen the results of the fish I show you constantly, week in, week out. Fish I've raised for a number of years as well, to the level that they're at, skin, color, shape, the length they've gained, the job lot. If I was having some of the stresses and hassles that I know people out there are having with the amount of fish and koi I've got, stress would have killed me by now, which is probably what drives this whole philosophy, because I've got to make sure everything's simple. This is where the hatred really of the drum filters that I've got came in, because just this week alone, We've had 2 now that have been offline for 2 weeks because even the parts we have to keep constantly ordering from the suppliers change something. So I've actually had to have them altered slightly in order to make them work, which is absolutely shit. And then just constant ones. I've got another one that's gone with another float switch problem, which is intermittent, and another one we haven't yet quite figured out. I just don't need that shit when I go outside, or my brush chambers or anything like that. I don't have it. But what that's doing to those systems is causing this, because all the build up, anything I would have had in that filter beforehand, is all now dead. 2 weeks of no food, and that system being offline. Luckily, they've got the showers on it, but the fluid bed side has took a massive hit. So even when that comes back online, I've got the build up, and I can't rely on it not happening again. So again, it's not a direct gripe, really. It's what the system itself causes because it's not reliable, and they're not a simple piece of equipment. I'm going right off topic here because we've got into it, but I want to be clear why it's just a product that doesn't tie in to that philosophy. If you've got a metals problem in your water that needs some kind of detoxification treatment, like if you've got a bacterial problem in your water that needs to be disinfected, you do it for that period of time and get the job done. Because theoretically, once you have obviously neutralized it, got them out of there, or you've got on top of your bacterial problem, we'll stick with the metals in this case, you then just need to make sure you're not adding them back in. So whether that's from typically source water or some products that can contain them, you stop. If it's your source water, you treat the problem at source, and that's how you keep absolute stability. If it's something for removing organics, which PP is very good for, you'll really improve water after PP, yes, but you've always a chance you're going to be knocking out a load of good in the process as well. And in a season where you're on the food, you're pumping it in, what you don't want to be doing is stopping food for the 2 days that you really should before a PP treatment, and a day after at least, to treat it, to then build it back up, because you will lose a bit of filtration performance in that, because the growing period is about build up. It's incremental build up. And we say that because the fish have to get used to it and the filters have to adapt to it. So you see, it's all about this philosophy for me, and it's not me being rigid, it's stubborn. This philosophy has been built over 23 years of fine tuning and finding the ways. I've done all these things you've done, guys, played with stuff, tinkered with, seen a new product and thought, oh, is this a good solution? You name it, loads of different things like that. I've done it all, and that's where I've got to and arrived at now. And now is where you see those results playing out. So yeah, anything like that, I think, are products for that kind of one-time use. Get them in, get them to get their job done. But then you need to treat the fundamental underlying problem, most of which can always be treated properly, you see. So like I say, and that's why I won't use it, because I have no reason to use it. There's no other benefits. The only additive that I'm a massive fan of is clay. Really makes sense, brings a lot of, it's a great flocculant, and just improving and remineralizing water, especially when it's being pummeled through them summer months as well, like mine does with the heavy food. Now, lactobacteria is a bit of a different one, because that does tie into a principle I'm a fan of. They are not aggressive, so there's nothing in there that will harm the bad bacteria, so to speak. The general concept behind adding a lactobacteria, providing it's a decent quality one, there will be a lot of shit out there, I can promise you that. But the general concept is that in a pond, both good and bad bacteria exist, and there is a food source. Now, generally, what you want to do is one of those groups will become dominant over the food source. Whichever one does will become the dominant group within the pond. So what you've got here is, obviously, if you can really create a great environment for good bacteria, it will become dominant and it will keep the bad bacteria suppressed. If the scales tip, it goes the other way, that's when you've got a problem on your hands. You've got highly elevated levels of bad bacteria in your water, and all of a sudden, fish getting a few flukes and damaging a slime coat become a big problem versus living in a healthy environment. So yeah, lactose I'm no issues with. PSB bacteria is also a good one if you do want something to use. The Colombo one is a superb product. You really notice a difference with it. That's never, whenever I've recommended it or used it, it's always been the same. People notice a difference. It really puts a sparkle on the wall, but it makes sense. It's a good beneficial cleaning bacteria. using bacteria can be very, very helpful in these environments. But again, I do believe that with the right setup, you can cultivate a lot of this within that natural ecosystem that you want to build. You've just got to some degree, leave it to its own devices and not interfere too much. It's not easy. So very long-winded answer on that one for you, pal. I hope it makes sense what I've said. But yeah, about them products and stuff. And this is why you won't get me. I genuinely, right, I've looked at this and I see when I see other content cropping up, you see the buzz. So all of a sudden it's like a product crops up like Pond Detox did or Nutrimare Koifu, whichever one. Then before you know it, there's fucking 300 videos on YouTube about it. And it's like everyone needs to jump on to make the content about it because it's the buzz. Now I get that from a content creator perspective. It actually really makes sense. It's something a lot of people who are very good at that game recommend doing. And I've looked at it and gone, well, you're kind of missing out. And now all of a sudden I'm the Antichrist against the buzz, but I don't give a shit because these things will generally fizzle out. They'll pass. They'll be on to the next one. I mean, look, even already this year, we've gone from, the Nutrimare cropping up. Now the Danichi Foods just buzzing around everywhere. Crack on, guys, crack on. I've got a principle. Let's say it's a fundamental set of rules that achieves those results that you see. And I know where it needs to improve and a good idea of what things I would need to do to improve it. It's then just a case of, are they really worth it? Do they sit within the principles of keep it simple? So I'm going to take that question off now because we are, but I'm going to carry on with this. Last year, I think you might remember me mentioning a device that I was playing around with. Now, this, I don't mind. So where I'm at with this was actually a nano bubble generator. Now, this was a tough one for me because when I had it presented, I looked into it and oxygen saturation is a big one for me, given the stocking densities that I have. At the height of summers, it can be really difficult to manage. So I've been looking down this route for a long time, but nothing really fit my keep it simple mantra. So a company cropped up and presented this nano bubble. I'd never heard of the technology. And it's actually quite fascinating when you look into it. But it's one of them scary looking machines that is just not, something I can get my head around that stuff 100%. That's not the issue. It's just like, right, is this going to be a fucking pain in the arse to look after? Sure enough, I managed to run it for a sustained long enough period that, yes, I can see a benefit to the technology and what it did to the particular pond. And it really did. However, the drawbacks, the system was a fucking nightmare to run. It had to be primed. It would block daily because of the way it was built. And this is just from fine particle matter in the water on this crazy little filter that was no bigger than that in this unit. And the whole system combined ran at about a kilowatt. Now, I was told up front that would get to a point where it could potentially run on a timer. It didn't. It weren't even getting close to it. So it would have been 1 kilowatt running constantly, but the daily maintenance, but then the change in parameters, because it altered the oxygen level so quickly, but it also dropped and changed so quickly. So just the whole thing was an absolute nightmare. And because I couldn't get that stability from it and the ease of, right, that's just running, just keep an eye on it, it wasn't the one for me whatsoever. That's why I didn't talk about it, just through fear that somebody listens and thinks, oh God, and they go out and spend a crazy sum of money on it. And then we learn after that it is just an absolute nightmare. Now, will I pursue it right now? No, I'm focusing more effort on the showers, looking at them different filter medias to see if there's anything to be gained from there. That's why I've gone down the mountain tree route, because I think I see some potential in that media from what I've seen. It looks a very well-made product. The fact that the minerals actually will seep from the media into the water might really help in my circumstances, plus combining it with the shower in effect. Now, the increased turnover from all the oxygen testing I was doing, I noticed there was marginal difference, normally around 1 milligram a litre of oxygen difference between the showered ponds and the ones that weren't. But yeah, you can't, I mean, even if it did work, a kilowatt running constantly just on that, you sort of scale that up then and it's just going to be absolutely brutal. So again, doesn't fit the philosophy. If there is, and I have seen some, because I've not gone away from it, I've seen there's something there in the technology now, but it's got to be a far simpler implementation that doesn't cost, you know, that sort of money. So that's it. I feel like probably the whole keep it simple thing we've not really hammered into for a long time. Obviously, when I started on this, it was every other week we was hammering it in, but that is that core philosophy. Get the environment right, stable, don't interfere too much, make sure you've got good water coming, heat if you can, and then just superb food and get the feeding right. And honestly, the hobby transforms. And I know this is a lot of people do reach out to me and say what a difference it's made to them. I really know it does. I see it play out in these 2 ponds I've just mentioned. You know, it's quite remarkable. And the heat thing especially has been the biggest one that I've pushed. I think, you know, sales on heat pumps have never been so good, but, you know, we've now got a technology there that I believe is affordable. It's becoming even more affordable, plus the ongoing running costs and the implementation at the right time of year, i.e. heating for summer, not necessarily for winter, just adds a different dimension to the hobby. And having seen more than ever this year, because of having them ponds heated outside and more of them, how much the temperature goes in such crazy directions and has so much instability with the British summer in particular, having that stability that can bring for what cost it was for running it in summer, well worth it. And then again, you come back to looking at that philosophy of keep it simple, and then it's making decisions. So, you know, if it comes down to setting up a pond, whether or not, you know, the drum filter is the right choice, if you're looking at your potential pond budget of what equipment actually helps me get to that goal of making the hobby as simple and enjoyable as possible, if you look at the cost of them drum filters, then it's eye-watering. It's absolutely eye-watering. Even if I loved them, I think I'd struggle to be pushing them at people because of just how expensive they actually are. I don't often pay a lot of attention to retail prices, but this shit's crazy. So you look at that versus, say, let's go with you know, a Nexus-based system or something else entirely that's more affordable for the initial system, and then use the rest of that budget to buy the heat pump. You know, you make decisions like that. 100%, there's no competition. So say you're looking down that, and you for one price you can get a Nexus fully loaded with media, all your equipment you need, and an air source heat pump, versus having to compromise and go just for the drum filter. No chance, absolutely no chance. But again, you see that tying back to a core philosophy. Let's have a look. Will a backy shower help my 750 litre pond? Water change every other day, pool 7 weeks. Oh, 750 litres. Crikey, and let me just convert that. That doesn't. I would suggest with that kind of water volume, yeah, 160 gallons, mate. I mean, 100%. You're going to want a small volume like that, especially a decent bit of filtration and increase in turnover as much as you can. And a shower is going to help you do that, because you're going to pollute that amount of water very, very quickly, mate. So yes, I would say it definitely would. I'm on child duty, mate, right now. And given that I'm flying tomorrow again, although let's say Harriet is coming with me, I'm not pushing my luck, and I've got to work. I'll be there probably till about 8 again, filming tonight to get all that finished. So not having it. There we go. Plus, it helps you guys a lot, doesn't it? Because if I'm here doing this, I can't be there trying to sell you fish. So it makes the WhatsApp and your wallets a hell of a lot better off. Craig, I've lost almost every fish due to bacterial infection. I'm still new to the hobby and having no luck dealing with it. What's the best action to take? Craig, there's a video. If you look back on the channel, the last episode 118 is a full video on dealing with bacterial infections that I did, and I'm literally just working on posting that onto the channel as well, because a lot of people will have missed it. So for that one, without taking up too much of this time, feel free to have a look at that. I think it'll be enlightening for you. Yes, thank you. I actually managed to do a full video. It's the first one we filmed last night. And I've done, because I've realized I've not really featured them on the channel at all this year. So actually, I've got a cracking batch of toasai that got moved into one of the 1,200-gallon ponds yesterday. And I did a whole recap on all the rest of my various collections I've got around the place. So stay tuned for that one. Aragoki, Ginrin, Chag. I would possibly say Ginrin. Yeah, probably Marihiro on that one at the moment. I don't think anybody, or Marido. Sorry, I've had some Marido ones this year. If you can get them, more likely probably from Marihiro. But yeah, the Marido ones have been good. Yeah, Craig's having a bit of a time of it, but we'll try and get him sorted over on the Telegram community. So nitrite for an extended period of time. I think we generally know it is actually documented that, you know, exposure around 0.3 isn't too bad. Creeping into 0.5, you don't want to keep them there for too long. There's no real information on how long is too long, though, which is part of the problem there. But let's face it as well, you know, we might be talking having these slightly elevated levels over a summer period, but then you're going to wind them off in winter. So it isn't a complete and continuous exposure. I just wish there was more. There might be more info out there, even, to be fair. Should be one I possibly run through ChatGPT, because you can obviously troll the internet at pace. But yeah, we know, Dan, generally 0.3 is not going to be too bad. And like I say, it's not going to be something that should be completely permanent either. Yes, there we go. Come on, hit that like button. Jeff, have one of your Ginrin syrup, sorry, from your grow on now 50 cm. Amazing, mate. Very glad to hear it. Afternoon, what do you feed your tamasabas? Mine don't like floating. I feed them Saki Akari, either growth or balance, and color sometimes as well. Small pellet, floating or sinking. They are very actually aggressive surface feeders. They can be. So either or. There might be something else going on there, Amanda, if they're not particularly, maybe not liking the food itself. Maybe the pellet size could be too big. I always make sure we're using a small pellet. Even though I have got some of the bigger ones, we'll take a medium. I prefer them to be on the small. Hi, Ricky. I have a fish in my grow-on pond and its eyes seem to have sunken in and has gone very narrow on the nose. Any doubt? Yes. So potentially something there, maybe parasitic, something affecting the gills normally when you get that type of symptom. So I would suggest a mucus biopsy first of all. Have a check in the gills and just check the broader environment as well. Sometimes what can happen if you've had a fish heavily damaged by parasites, if you actually scrape in the sickest fish, sometimes you might not find anything because they've actually left that host because it's not a good food source anymore, and they move on. So when you're doing scrapes, I always advise doing healthy fish as well if you really want to get to the root of a problem. Jay, hi Ricky. Last time you talked about PP. Yes, that video is still in the works, guys. How long do you stay in the pond before you neutralize? I like to keep it a very deep purple for 4 hours. That's kind of where I'm at. But throughout all this, and the big point, I am constantly there watching the behavior, and I know when it's far enough. So sometimes I might have to get out quicker, you know, depending on what dosage rate I've used. It really depends on what system I go with. So how often do you clean your filters? The drum filters are obviously there, but we still have to get in and maintain them drum filters at least once a week. That is, you know, getting the screens, getting some acid on the screens, cleaning down the nozzles. The brush chambers, I do twice a week now. Because we've got Jacob, we were actually doing them once a week. Now we get it twice, which is fantastic. Probably led to the, well, no doubt led to the even better results in there, which is fantastic. And the towers we run outside with the sponge, they now get done twice a week as well. That was typically once, or depending where they were at. That's obviously a lot. We're dealing with what resources we've got for the amount of ponds, but as a guide, you know, that level of intervention needs to be a minimum weekly on any pond in order to keep it ticking over and nothing going rotten. I'm currently running an Ultra Civ 3 along with a 24-inch Evolution Aqua bead filter and the 110 watt Evo UV and the Tempest running on the skimmer. I've had nothing but problems with the bacterial infection. Help. Craig, again, I can only point you back to that video. Unfortunately, I can't go into the depths of it on here. Feel free to look at that. One thing I will say, jumping out there, the Evolution Aqua beads with the K1 is not as bad as the original beads, but just service that, check that your bead filter is not full of shit. That is the first place I'd be looking, and it's the reason I don't like those vessels. I never have done, I never will do. That they're not for me. But the old bead filters, my God, the amount of horror stories you would get where they've been actually a problem. You strip it down, you just find some absolutely septic shit in there. No good. But yeah, feel free to refer to episode 118 on the channel, where I've got a full dive on all of that. Afternoon, Ricky. Pond's got plants. The recommended dose, PP doesn't stay purple for long. Yeah, all fish are now fine, but for future higher starter dose kit. Right. So the one thing I will say on that, Jimmy, I'm not a fan of the topping up part. I'm really not. So I think it's a tough one. I prefer to kind of get my dose in, gauge see what reaction time we've got, let that clear through, and then go at it again with another attempt the next day, and then just keep repeating if I need to, because obviously from there the water is going to be in presumably a better state the next time around. You might struggle with the plants a little bit, but it ultimately still just depends on your organic load in the water. So that's where I'm at with that one, Jim. I don't like this topping up principle. I think it's too easy to overdo it with that. At least, you know, if you go at one dose the next day, you know, right, my water should be clearer. If I go at the dose again, or I'm going to go at this, at least you've actually got some data then as to what the dose actually did for you as well. So it become a process you can potentially repeat after. Just topping up, keeping it that. I think it's dangerous and too easy to potentially overdo it. Fish are breaking out into ulcers and dying. I've tried different treatments and even salted the pond. Can't seem to get on top of it. Yeah, Craig, again, I'll just point you back to episode 118, mate, on the channel. I pretty much covered it all off there. Daz, very glad to hear it, pal. Very glad to hear it. Yes, it is genuinely one of the hardest, just to leave them out. I think I'm lucky because obviously time issue is a massive problem. So I don't necessarily have the time to really, I mean, the amount of time you guys must spend watching and you've got cameras and all kinds of stuff. So you'll be seeing stuff. I've had this debate with a few people that I would probably never see and don't want to see. But then I would probably counter that by saying, for me, generally at a quick glance, I've seen this because of the team around me as well. At a quick glance, I'll often see a lot that they won't see. So it probably counter it. But again, it's then also knowing that just when that environment is right, leave it. And even when we're in the height of problems, Craig will have seen this from my comments in our Telegram group this morning. One of the biggest things when problems hit is just take a breath, chill, and actually get to the bottom of it, and not just scramble, throwing medications, all the rest of it, because that's one of the most dangerous things you can do. And I get it, tinkering, when I see people wanting to change. We're back on it again. Look, you know, changing foods, all the rest of it. For me, when you've got a fundamental system, process, everything that's really working and delivering the results, why do you want to tinker with it? I know it can be curiosity. You see this flash, you think, can I do better? Can it be better? And then even just waiting and letting and watching most of it obviously just pass by. And that's again why I'm not rushed into changing foods or doing it. If something crops up, if financial circumstances dictated that I must change that food, I mean, my God, trust me, it'd have to be bad for me to do that. I'd look for a million other things to change first, but then it's fair enough. And if that's the same for you guys, it's fair enough. But ultimately, when you've got something working really well and you can't see, you might not see ways of improvement. It might take a different set of eyes to come in and say, if, are you consider doing something to potentially tweak that? But other than that, stick with it. Why not? Wow, crazy, mate. Crazy. It is awful, and there's been too much of it just recently. Hi, Ricky. How do you use Vercon after PP with a bacterial infection? I've been struggling for months with bacterial infections. I tried to reach out for some help. Yeah, Estelle. Sorry, I don't get on top of all that. If you saw my multiple inboxes daily, and I've kind of said it before, I don't give advice. That's actually something I want to say. I don't give advice one-to-one by DM. I just don't have the time, unfortunately, to see it all through to the level that I would need to actually get involved in the first place and not just cause chaos, unfortunately. I'd try and put as much on here as possible because ultimately, again, refer to episode 118, it would be a lot of the same advice that I would be giving people. So, and this way, that time that I spend benefits a lot more people, which I'm conscious of as well. Just on that note of DMs, because I've noticed on a couple, I do love hearing from you guys. If it's about little things, successes you've had, all the rest of it, I do love hearing from you, honestly. I just can't, it's one-to-one advice. I've been very clear about it from the beginning. I have to go too in depth. And on top of it already, with everything else I have going on, it's too much, unfortunately. I must say, I always used Takazumi, but switched to Sake. Had my first season in 15 years with no issues. Honestly, I'm absolutely shocked to hear it. Not just crazy stuff, guys. Nutrition is massive, and I say nutrition in people. Even just literally, I've recently changed my own diet massively, and Japan has helped because after the first trip, where I was at 2 weeks when I was there for the first spawning, I was eating like a pig as I often do there, but noticed all of a sudden bloating, weight felt like it was starting to come off, and it's inspired me ever since. And a massive change up. I'm now, it's nothing crazy, just to the point I try where possible to only eat something I have made. Either, it's fruit that nobody can physically fuck around with too much, or if it's a meal, it's something I've made. So it's not full of chemicals and additives and shit. And I know the quality of the proteins, etc., and everything going into it. And that has allowed me, honestly, the just general improvement. None of the crashes during the day, any of the nasty stuff, and without even trying, I've dropped nearly a stone in weight. It's mad. But that all started because out there at that place, the quality of nutrition that's readily available is just far superior to our country. Portion sizes, the whole lot. So yeah, I really thank them for that, and obviously the continued trips help really keep it on track, and I hope I can keep it that way. But food for Koi, I'm no different in the belief that health can start from the inside out big time. And a lot of foods just simply aren't good enough, aren't worth the money. Yes, that is very true as well. Hi, my heel, sorry, I bought from you on the grown is stunning. It's the smallest one you said looked amazing. Its colour is stunning. Fantastic to hear that, Lee. I used to work at a fishery, and our suppliers would only deliver stock in colder weather. Do you think as hobbyists, if we only restocked in winter, it would deviate? No, Craig, I don't, because there can be, if you've not got a heated pond and you get that wrong at the wrong time of year, it's an issue as well. Yes, generally the fish harden up, they toughen up during winter, but likewise when stuff goes wrong, you've not got the temperature and the immune response to pull them out of it. Fishery, carp and stuff are a little bit different. They're not quite as delicate and fussy as what our koi are. So No, I think there can be smarter ways around introducing fish. You know, if you're introducing one a week or constantly like that, you're going to cause yourself a lot of problems and upset. But, you know, there's obviously I got a bit reading your messages, Craig, on the background that, you know, there's a fish gone in that's potentially rocked everything for you, mate. But that can happen. Don't get me wrong. You might want to look at how, you know, sources where it's been, it can increase the risks. You might just want to look at a pre-treatment protocol or even a little protocol after adding fish, putting the whole pond through a kind of quarantine phase, something like that. It might be worth us getting into that discussion at some point. But no, I don't think just adding in cold water is the real solution there. Hi, is there a water filter for KH? Not that I'm aware of. So true, Joe. I made you have it, pal. Loads of creative ways of stopping people from asking. Hi, Ricky. With all your trips, have you found tricks getting any cheaper flights to Japan, or is it always about the same, Rob? I always go with KLM. It's a fantastic route for me, and it's always roughly the same. There's some seasonal peaks on there, but yeah, it's just it's one of them, unfortunately. I think even as I don't often look at other airlines that much, but every time I have, they're fairly consistent as well. Stuart, I've not got long left. That's a massive, massive question to really drill into. But I mean, first and foremost, and this is the bit I think goes over everyone's head straight away, is that ultimately it could just be that the quality was never there in the first place. There's other factors, you know, stress can cause it, conditions, environment, lighting, food. But ultimately, if the quality is not there in the first place, the minute that fish starts growing, you're going to get benny loss, which is primarily what it normally is. So, getting to understand and read Benny is the real art in that one. Sumi is very different because Sumi can recover, but generally once Benny has been lost through natural or through the quality not being there, it'll never come back. Looking forward to my delivery of Akamatsuba and Deutsche Quark tomorrow from yourself, Ricky. Last editions of the summer, amazing. I hope you're happy with them. I'm so happy as well. Got the box. We have had one of the most stressful periods with boxes. I have I think you've seen the video, rigorously high standards and specs on these boxes. It costs us a fortune. But we got to the point where the material was only being milled by one company in the UK, apparently. So every time the phone call comes, the price is just flying up. And honestly, this box delivery we got to at one point was over £12,000. It's fucking ridiculous. And we've gone through all kinds of options, one of which long term might even see us bringing them in from Japan, which is mental. But that's what you get for being in UK and how expensive it is. But finally, I've had to make a couple of compromises, the main one being on the colour of the box. However, it also meant I could get a stronger material. So for me, it was a compromise worthwhile, even stronger again. But I'll share a picture later. The print we've got on the brown box actually looks really good, quite similar to some of the style of the Japanese ones. So happy days. What a brilliant season. Glad to hear it. Good afternoon, Rick and everyone else. Lost track of time whilst cleaning my Nexus filter, etc. whilst working from home. Yeah, you lot and you're working from home. Yes, fingers crossed for you there, pal. Oh, tea's gone cold. Right, I do need to shoot in a minute as well because I've got to get my kids ready to go out with me now. Controversial, but your views on level of emergency care available to us enthusiasts. Should it be regulated better? Lee, that is not, I've touched on this before and you said it there. Yes, regulated. Basically, if the person you're getting in, this is tough. This is tough because there are people out there who can really help. Good dealers probably that would be able to help you from afar. Those that want to go pond side and really start diving into it, and I've seen some fucking savagery caused by these people. Absolutely brutal. For me, unless it's the likes of Bryony at London Aquatic Vet, who's got all the letters after a name and has done the proper training, being pond side, administering anything other than advice is one thing. You know, if they're there also administering illegal medications, antibiotics illegally, all the rest of it, it should be stopped. It shouldn't be happening. It's a tough one, because if a lot of the guys doing it went away, a lot of help would be gone, and veterinary care is expensive. But yeah, I think regulation is probably the bit there, Lee, to be honest, regulation, because it's too easy for them to keep people giving shit advice. You know, I swear to God, this pond I mentioned earlier, Dr. Death dealing with that one, I swear to God, he was just keeping that in the state it was in because it was just printing money for him, honestly. Because the fact that it took me 6 months to rectify what he couldn't rectify in 2 years, I think says a lot. It either says a lot about him or a lot about me. I'll let you guys make the decision on that one, but 100% agree. It's not a case of people not doing it. I think regulation around it is possibly the one. You would argue that there is actually regulation. They probably just shouldn't be doing it in the first place. However, in reality, if they didn't, a lot of help would vanish, which is also, it's the catch-22 in that scenario that I'm very aware of when I just go running my mouth like that. But it's a tough one. I love to see the video. Great to see maintenance side of farm and change to your backy shower. I do use the mounted tree spiral matting. Good stuff. Glad to hear it, Mickey. No, I don't use salt to lower bacterial load. I use salt to de-stress. I've said it many a times. We use salt to relieve osmotic pressure, which allows more energy to be spent on the immune system, helping them recover. That is the general purpose of salt. Actually, salt in the process of treating a bacterial infection and actually getting rid of the bacteria is not what I look at that for at all. It's the stress element and what it does. So Craig's gone back to it. I've actually hit the bottom of the pile there just in time. So there we go. Last one then, Craig. What's your thoughts and knowledge on the Mariju Pandora line? Yeah, so obviously this was a collaboration between Dainichi Toyota and Mariju. Now, I'm not sure where the Mariju end of this is at. It was the Mariju Tancho Showa, and it's been paired with a lot of the Dainichi Toyota males. And as he does, he'll take the eggs and mix various sperms of different males, and that's how they go about it. So I would say this year looked a lot better than last. I didn't like the change. Saw a lot of body change last year that I didn't like, because one thing I admire about Dainichi Toyota Showa is the phenomenal, powerful body line that they've got. They went a little bit more typically Showa in that build up, seemingly from what I saw, but he seems to very quickly have improved it into this year. And I think fundamentally it's going to become a new baseline for him. So I would say at the minute it's looking good, positive, but as anything, developing a new bloodline, as I know, and I'm going to know even more, it takes time. So you've got that kind of one shot every year. It's crazy. So there we go, guys. I'm going to wrap it up on that one because I've got children actually tapping at my window there. I hope you've found this session useful. Good to catch up before I go away. I'm making no promises. If there's a time that works and we can throw one in while I'm in Japan, I will do it. We might have to tie it more around my schedule than you guys and see who catches it, but it'll be there on the channel anyway after. And just to recap, if you are struggling with a bacterial issue, episode 118 has got a lot of information in, and I am going to be reposting that on the channel as well. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch up with you all again soon.